if these were normal times, if we were dealing with a normal Republican Party pre-Trump where, there'd be ideological differences, but the question of democracy was not in question, I think there's reason to be optimistic. But again, I'm of the opinion, and I say this as the son of Cuban exiles who were forced to leave their country because of an autocratic overthrow. When the Republicans are on the precipice of recapturing the Congress without a voting rights bill having been passed to protect the integrity of elections, I am not sure, as Susan Del Persico said earlier, we can count on this democracy being intact and having the full integrity of an election in 2024 and beyond. And I think that's why this is the dominant issue and really needs to be going forward.
Yeah. I am a Republican who have supported Democrats and want Democrats to win because I believe in democracy and I believe in governance. We can disagree on policy, but the Republicans aren't governing. And they're still able to be influential in this process. And we have to say the only solution to that is by more Democrats winning.
In that you have a Republican Party that has unveiled and unmasked itself as being hostile to American democracy. They do not believe in our system of government. They don't believe in the Constitution. And as that clip just showed, they are willing to take up arms in larger numbers. And the voters of Virginia and New Jersey, in essence, said yesterday, no problem. It's okay. You get a pass. I don't know where it goes from here. There were no easy solutions, no easy answers. And yes, you can look at Joe Biden's sagging approval ratings. You can look at the fact that, COVID hasn't quite been vanquished and we haven't gotten back to full normal yet. You can look at the messy Afghanistan pullout. I don't think any of those things, however, explain that last night, in my judgment at least, the voters of two major Democratic states, in essence, said there is no penalty to pay for the Republican Party that was behind an armed insurrection.
Yeah, which is crazy. The Republicans dangled things like CRT, critical race theory, any of these ghost philosophies they have. The subtext of all this was, we can't let these black and brown people run the country. The messaging didn't matter. Aaron, in Virginia, I think voters of color have such a huge position to play in this American body politic. And the AAPI community could have made a huge difference in the Virginia race and some of these razor thin margins. And sometimes voters of color get overlooked because you've got the Republicans yelling like, hey, look, the black and brown folks are coming for us. Do you think messaging is the part of the problem here?
History tells us, the black and white memo, just so you know, history tells us that race and racism remain a potent factor in American politics because they work. This is a strategy that is not new, so we should not call it Trumpism because the former president was just the latest white male politician to tap into this long legacy of campaigns that has deployed race, lies, conspiracy, and voter suppression as a path to victory. I mean, this is the original lie. I think, we saw in exit polling white voters breaking something like 70-30s, for Youngkin, black voters breaking 86-13 for McAuliffe, and 2/3 of Latinos and Asians also breaking for McAuliffe. So, yes, it is time to stop making voters of color either the savior or the scapegoat in every cycle as a narrative, and really start asking why white voters and candidates are either complicit or condoning of racist campaign strategy.
Well, Tiffany, I think the most disturbing takeaway and consequence of last night's elections, not just in Virginia, but of course in New Jersey as well, is that we saw something that I quite frankly did not think was possible. We saw the normalization of an armed, violent insurrection and attempted coup against the United States by the party that was the instigator, the planners and the plotters, if you will. And the voters of Virginia and the voters of New Jersey, in essence, said, you know what, not a big deal. Let's move on from that. Also taking into consideration that in Virginia, many of those plotters actually laid out the plans for that armed insurrection that happened less than 10 months ago. This was the first major quasi-national test on what happened around that attempted coup, which to me continues to be the most important issue in America.
But let's be honest, here's the thing. All those takes are like searching the edges while refusing to see what's staring right back at you. And I can assure you, black voters in Virginia are not shocked by the so-called Youngkin shocker. This isn't about enthusiasm. This isn't about Democrats not doing enough to exercise their base. And this definitely is not about messaging or even about beloved. This is about the fact that a good chunk of voters out there are okay with white supremacy. Let's call a thing a thing. Actually, scratch that. They are more than okay. This afternoon, reporter Yamiche Alcindor asked President Biden about the results. She clearly understood the assignment.
What's your message, though, for Democratic voters, especially black voters, who see Republicans running on race, education, lying about critical race theory, and they're worried that Democrats don't have an effective way to push back on that?
Well, I think that the whole answer is just to speak the truth, lay out where we are.
Some voters are also giddy over candidates who have no business governing.